My name is Sarah. I'm 42 years old, and what I discovered in my own home shattered everything I believed about the people I love. Everything I thought was real, everything I built my life around, everything I trusted with my whole heart, it all came crashing down in one devastating moment. And the worst part? I never saw it coming. Not even once did I think the man I married, the man I gave 20 years of my life to, could become the stranger who would destroy me. I'm going to tell you what happened to me. And I need you to listen, because this isn't just my story. This could be anyone's story. This could be your story. I need you to hear this because maybe, just maybe, you'll see the signs I missed. Maybe you'll protect yourself before it's too late. But what I saw that night, I'll never forget. The image is burned into my mind like a scar that will never fade. It plays over and over again, every time I close my eyes, every time I try to sleep, every time I think I might finally have a moment of peace. It haunts me, and it changed everything. Before I continue, please, I'm begging you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me where you're watching from. Just leave a comment. Tell me your city, your country, anything. Because right now, I feel so alone. I feel like I'm screaming into the void, and I need to know that someone out there is listening. Someone out there still believes in stories like this. Someone out there understands that this pain is real. Let me take you back to when everything seemed perfect, back when I actually believed I had it all figured out. I was living what I thought was a beautiful life. My husband, David, and I had been married for 20 years. 20 years. That's 2 decades of shared memories, of building a home together, of thinking we were a team. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where everyone knows everyone, where kids play in the streets until dark, where you can leave your door unlocked and not worry about it. Every morning, I would wake up at 6. I'd make coffee. David liked his black, no sugar, and I'd prepare breakfast. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast, sometimes pancakes on the weekends. He'd come down in his work clothes, kiss me on the forehead, and tell me I was doing a great job. "You're the glue that holds this family together," he'd say. And I believed him. God, I believed him. I worked part-time at a local bookstore. It wasn't much, but I loved it. I loved the smell of old books, the quiet conversations with customers, the feeling of helping someone find exactly what they needed. David worked in finance, long hours, high stress, good money. He always said my job was cute, that it was nice I had something to do while he handled the real responsibilities. I should have heard the condescension in his voice. I should have noticed the way he diminished everything I did. But love makes you blind. Love makes you excuse things. Love makes you believe the best in people, even when they're showing you who they really are. Our evenings were routine. I'd cook dinner, his favorite meals, always trying to make him happy. We'd eat together, sometimes in silence, but I told myself that was just comfort, that was just the ease of a long marriage. After dinner, he'd retreat to his home office to work, and I'd clean up, watch a little TV, maybe read. Then we'd go to bed, and the next day would be exactly the same. It was predictable. It was safe. It was everything I thought I wanted. But soon, I started noticing small things that didn't make sense. Little cracks in the perfect facade I'd built in my mind. David started coming home later. His explanations were vague. Meeting ran long, had drinks with clients. Traffic was terrible. He stopped asking about my day. He stopped kissing me on the forehead. He started looking at his phone constantly, turning the screen away from me whenever I walked by. And then there were the comments. Little digs that seemed to come out of nowhere. "You didn't fold the towels right. This dinner is too salty. Why do you always look so tired?" Each one felt like a tiny knife, small enough that I could ignore it, but they added up, they accumulated, they started to make me question myself. Was I doing something wrong? Was I not enough? Was I failing him somehow? I tried harder. I always tried harder. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You try to fix it. You try to be better. You try to prove your worth. But nothing I did was ever enough. And deep down, somewhere in the pit of my stomach, I knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. Until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. It was a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were my late nights at the bookstore, and I usually didn't get home until after 8. But that particular Thursday, we closed early because of a power outage, so I got home around 6:30 instead. I pulled into the driveway and noticed David's car was already there. Strange. He was never home before 7 on weekdays. I felt this odd flutter of anxiety in my chest, but I pushed it away. Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe we could have a nice evening together. I walked through the front door, calling out his name. David? Honey, I'm home early. No response. I set my purse down on the kitchen counter and listened. I could hear voices coming from upstairs. His voice, and someone else's, a woman's voice, laughing. My blood ran cold. I stood there, frozen in my own kitchen, trying to come up with a rational explanation. A coworker, a friend, a cousin I didn't know about, anything but what my instincts were screaming at me. I should have marched up those stairs right then. I should have confronted him, but I didn't. Instead, I quietly walked back outside, got in my car, and drove around the block. I gave it 15 minutes, then came back, this time making sure to slam the car door, to jingle my keys loudly, to announce my presence. When I walked back in, David was in the kitchen, looking perfectly casual, scrolling through his phone. No woman, no voices, no evidence. Hey, he said without looking up, you're home early. Yeah, power outage at the store, I said, watching his face carefully. Nothing. No guilt, no nervousness, nothing. Huh, he said. Then he went back to his phone. I wanted to ask. I wanted to demand answers. But fear held my tongue, fear of what I might find out, fear of what it would mean, fear of losing everything I'd built my life around. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. David stopped smiling. He stopped looking me in the eyes, and I didn't know why. His coldness became ice. His indifference became hostility. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield, never knowing what might set him off. You're useless, he said one night after dinner. Just like that, out of nowhere. I had made his favorite meal pot roast with roasted vegetables, homemade mashed potatoes. I'd spent hours on it, and he took one bite, pushed his plate away, and said those words, "You're useless. I don't know why I even keep you around." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt tears spring to my eyes, but I blinked them back. What? David, what are you talking about? You heard me. You contribute nothing to this marriage. You work some pathetic part-time job. You can't even cook a decent meal. And you're getting old. Look at yourself. I looked down at my hands, trembling on the table. I don't understand where this is coming from. Of course you don't, he said with a cruel laugh. You're too stupid to understand anything. He stood up and left the room, leaving me sitting there alone with the meal I'd poured my love into, his words echoing in my head. Useless, pathetic, stupid, old. That night, I cried myself to sleep in the guest room. He didn't come looking for me. He didn't apologize. He didn't care. And that's when I knew. Something was very, very wrong. But what I didn't know yet was just how deep the betrayal went. I didn't know that the woman's voice I'd heard that day was just the beginning. I didn't know that my entire life was a lie. Until one night, I saw something that made my heart stop. And this time, I couldn't pretend anymore. This time, I couldn't look away. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a pounding headache. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. When did I become this person? This hollow, exhausted, broken version of myself? I went downstairs to make coffee, and David was already in the kitchen, dressed for work, acting like nothing had happened, like he hadn't destroyed me the night before with his words. "Morning," he said casually. "Morning," I whispered back. "I need you to pick up my dry cleaning today," he said, not looking at me. "And the house is a mess. I'm having some colleagues over tomorrow night, so make sure everything is spotless." I nodded, unable to find my voice, unable to stand up for myself, unable to do anything but comply because that's what I'd been trained to do for 20 years. He left without another word. No kiss goodbye. No I love you. Nothing. I called my sister, Patricia, that afternoon. I needed to talk to someone. I needed to know I wasn't going crazy. "Pat," I said when she answered, my voice cracking, "I think something's wrong with David." "What do you mean, wrong?" she asked, concerned. "He's been so cruel lately. He called me useless. He said terrible things. And I think there might be someone else." There was a pause on the other end. Then, "Sarah, honey, are you sure? David has always been so devoted to you. Maybe he's just stressed with work. You know how demanding his job is." "But Pat, you should have heard the things he said." "Look, all marriages go through rough patches," she interrupted. "Mark and I had a terrible year when the kids were young. I thought we might not make it, but we worked through it. Maybe you're just being a little sensitive? You know how you can get sometimes." Her words stung worse than David's. "Because this was my sister, my own blood." And she didn't believe me. "I'm not imagining this," I said weakly. "I'm not saying you are, sweetie. I'm just saying maybe you're reading too much into things. Men get grumpy. They say things they don't mean. Give him some space. Try to be a little more understanding, and I'm sure things will get better." I hung up feeling more alone than ever. Was I imagining things? Was I being too sensitive? Maybe David was right. Maybe I was useless. Maybe I was stupid. Maybe I was overreacting to everything. I tried to push the doubts away, but they clung to me like shadows. I started second-guessing everything. Every look, every word, every action. Was I crazy? Was I making problems where there were none? But then I'd remember that woman's voice. I'd remember the coldness in David's eyes. I'd remember the way he looked at me like I was nothing, like I was just an inconvenience in his life. I started watching him more carefully. I paid attention to his patterns. He was on his phone constantly now, always stepping out of the room to take calls. He was taking more business trips, sometimes leaving for 3 or 4 days at a time. His credit card statements showed charges from expensive restaurants I'd never been to, boutique hotels in nearby cities, flower shops. When I asked him about the charges, he got defensive. "Are you seriously questioning my expenses?" "I work hard to provide for us, Sarah. Those are business expenses." "God, you're so paranoid." And just like that, I was the bad guy. I was the one with the problem. He made me feel guilty for even asking. I talked to our neighbor, Margaret, an older woman who'd been married for 40 years. I thought maybe she'd understand. "Oh, honey," she said when I confided in her. "You're probably just going through the change. You know how hormones can make us women a little emotional." My Herbert went through a phase where he was grumpy all the time too. Men are just like that sometimes. Don't worry so much. Even she dismissed me. Even she made me feel like this was my fault, my problem, my overreaction. I felt like I was drowning, and everyone around me was telling me the water was fine. But the next morning, the evidence was right in front of me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't let anyone else convince me I was crazy, because what I found was undeniable. What I found was proof that everything I feared was true. It was a Monday morning. David had left for work early, saying he had an important meeting. I was in the bedroom, making the bed, when his iPad chimed on the nightstand. He'd forgotten it. I picked it up, intending to just silence it, but then I saw the notification, a text message, from someone named Amanda. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Wear that thing I like. My hands started shaking. The iPad nearly slipped from my grip. I stared at those words, reading them over and over again, trying to make them mean something else, anything else. But there was no other meaning. There was no innocent explanation. I opened the message thread, and my world collapsed. Months of messages. Months of, I love you and I miss you, and explicit photos and plans to meet up. Plans made while I was at work, while I was sleeping in the next room, while I was cooking dinner downstairs. This woman, Amanda, knew everything about me. They talked about me. He called me his dead weight. He said I was getting uglier every day. He said he was only staying with me until he figured out how to get rid of her without losing too much money. I was nothing to him. I was a burden, an inconvenience, an obstacle. I took screenshots of everything. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the iPad, but I forced myself to document it all. Every message, every photo, every cruel word. I sent them to my email, then deleted the sent messages from his iPad so he wouldn't know. When I finished, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. I couldn't cry. I couldn't feel anything except a cold, hollow emptiness in my chest. 20 years. 20 years of my life, given to a man who saw me as disposable. But I wasn't going to be dismissed anymore. I wasn't going to let him gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. I had proof now. I had evidence. I decided I needed to find out more. I needed to know everything. Who was this Amanda? How long had this really been going on? Were there others? That afternoon, I went to an electronics store and bought a small recording device, the kind you can hide anywhere. I'd never done anything like this before. I'd never been a spy, never been suspicious, never been anything but trusting. But trust had gotten me here. Trust had made me blind. I came home and planted the recorder in David's home office, tucked behind a row of books where he'd never look. My heart was pounding the entire time. I felt sick with anxiety. What was I doing? Was this wrong? Was I violating his privacy? But then I remembered his messages, his cruelty, his betrayal, and I knew I had to do this. I had to protect myself. I had to know the truth, the whole truth, not just what he wanted me to see. That night, David came home late, as usual. He barely acknowledged me. I'd made dinner, but he said he'd already eaten. I had a late meeting, he said. The lie came so easily to him. Okay, I said quietly. I'll just put this away then. He went up to his office, and I heard the door click shut. I sat downstairs, watching the clock, imagining what he might be doing up there. Was he calling her? Texting her? Making plans to see her again? The anxiety was eating me alive. My stomach was in knots. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I felt like I was going to throw up. This was my life now. This was what my marriage had become. Surveillance and suspicion and lies. That night, I pressed record in my mind, knowing the device was already doing its work, and I waited. I waited to hear the truth in his own words. I waited for confirmation of what I already knew but was too afraid to fully accept. The waiting was torture. But the truth would be so much worse. 3 days later, when David left for work, I retrieved the recording device. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely press the play button. At first, there was nothing. Just silence, the sound of him typing, the creak of his desk chair. I fast-forwarded through hours of mundane nothing. And then I heard it. His phone ringing. Him answering. "Hey, baby." His voice was warm, affectionate, tender, everything it hadn't been with me in months. "Yeah, I miss you too." "No, she's downstairs. She has no idea. She's too stupid to figure anything out." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Hearing it was so different from reading it. Hearing the warmth in his voice, the love, the intimacy all directed at someone else while he talked about me like I was garbage. I know. I promise we'll figure it out soon," he continued. "I just need to play this carefully. If I file for divorce right now, she'll take half of everything. But I've been moving money around, setting things up so when the time comes, she'll walk away with almost nothing. My lawyer says we just need a few more months." My blood turned to ice. He was planning this. He was strategically, methodically destroying me, and I had been completely oblivious. "The house is in my name," he continued. "She doesn't work enough to support herself. She'll be completely dependent on whatever I decide to give her. And trust me, it won't be much. After everything I've put up with, dealing with her pathetic neediness for 20 years, she deserves nothing." There was a pause as the woman on the other end said something I couldn't hear. Then David laughed. Actually laughed. "What do I even see in her anymore? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. She's gained weight. She's aging badly. She's boring. She contributes nothing. Honestly, Amanda, you're everything she's not. You're young, you're beautiful, you're successful. Why would I want to stay with a washed-up bookstore clerk when I could have you?" I stopped the recording. I couldn't listen anymore. I sat there on the floor of the bedroom, the device in my lap, and I finally let myself break. I sobbed. I screamed into a pillow so he wouldn't hear me if he came home. I let out 20 years of suppressed pain, of ignored red flags, of swallowed dignity. He didn't love me. Maybe he never had. Maybe I was always just convenient, just a placeholder until something better came along. And now that something better had arrived, he was systematically dismantling my life so I'd be left with nothing. I froze. My whole world collapsed in a single frame. Everything I believed about my marriage, about my husband, about my life, it was all a lie. An elaborate, cruel lie. But what happened next was even worse. That evening, David came home earlier than usual. I was in the kitchen, staring blankly at the wall, still reeling from what I'd heard. I'd barely moved in hours. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think. I could barely breathe. "Sarah," he said sharply when he walked in, "why isn't dinner ready? I told you I'd be home at 6. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was hearing him speak to me like that after what I'd discovered. Maybe it was 20 years of pent-up frustration finally finding its voice. Maybe I was just done. "I know about Amanda," I said quietly. The color drained from his face, but only for a second, then his expression hardened. "What are you talking about?" "I know everything, David. I've seen the messages. I've heard the recordings. I know what you've been planning." For a moment, we just stared at each other. The air between us was electric with rage and fear and 20 years of unspoken resentment. Then his face twisted into something ugly. Something I'd never seen before but had probably always been there, just hidden beneath the surface. "You've been spying on me?" he snarled. You've been going through my things? How dare you? How dare I? I felt my voice rising. How dare you? You've been cheating on me. You've been planning to steal everything from me. You've been calling me useless and stupid because you are useless, he shouted, stepping toward me. You're a waste of space, Sarah. You've been dragging me down for years. You think your little bookstore job matters? You think you contribute anything to this household? I've been supporting your pathetic existence for 2 decades. I gave you 20 years of my life. I screamed back, tears streaming down my face. I gave you everything. I loved you. I took care of you. You gave me nothing, he roared. Nothing but boring, mediocre, useless nothing. He grabbed my arm hard, his fingers digging into my skin. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. Let go of me, I said, fear creeping into my voice. You want to know the truth, Sarah? Fine. I've been with Amanda for 2 years, 2 years, and she's everything you're not. And yes, I've been hiding money. Yes, I've been planning to leave you with nothing, because that's exactly what you deserve, nothing. He released my arm and went upstairs. I heard him moving around, drawers opening and closing, things being thrown. Then he came down with 3 suitcases, my suitcases, and started filling them with my clothes, just grabbing handfuls and stuffing them in carelessly. What are you doing? I asked, my voice small. You're leaving. Tonight. Right now. I want you out of my house. This is my home too, David. You can't just... It's my house, he bellowed. My name on the deed. My money. My everything. And I want you out. He grabbed the suitcases and dragged them to the front door, then threw them outside onto the lawn. Some of my clothes spilled out onto the grass. David, please, I said, following him. We need to talk about this. We need to... There's nothing to talk about. You're done here. You're useless. You're worthless, and I want you gone. I should have done this years ago. He pushed me toward the door. Not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to make his message clear. I stumbled outside, and he slammed the door behind me. I stood there on my front lawn in the evening light, my belongings scattered around me, and I heard the lock click. He'd locked me out of my own home. After 20 years, neighbors were starting to come out, drawn by the shouting. I could see them looking at me, whispering to each other. The humiliation was crushing. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. I started gathering my clothes, shoving them back into the suitcases, my hands shaking, tears blurring my vision. I had nowhere to go. I had no plan. I had nothing. That's when I heard a voice behind me. Are you okay? Do you need help? I turned around and saw my neighbor from across the street, Michael. He was in his late 50s, a quiet man who mostly kept to himself. We'd exchanged pleasantries over the years but never really talked. I'm fine, I said, though I clearly wasn't. You don't look fine, he said gently. Can I help you with those bags? I thought it was over, but I was wrong, because what Michael was about to tell me would change everything. Again. Michael helped me carry my suitcases to his house across the street. I kept apologizing, kept saying I'd only stay for 1 night, that I'd figure something out. He just shook his head and told me not to worry about it. His house was modest but comfortable. He showed me to a guest room and made me tea. I sat on his couch, still in shock, still unable to fully process what had just happened. I'm so sorry you had to see that, I said, staring at my hands. I'm so embarrassed. You have nothing to be embarrassed about, Michael said firmly. Your husband should be the embarrassed one. What he did was cruel and cowardly. I looked up at him. surprised by the anger in his voice. "I've been watching this happen for months," he continued. "I've seen the way he treats you. I've seen that woman coming and going when you're at work. I've wanted to say something, but I didn't know if it was my place." My stomach dropped. "You knew? About Amanda?" He nodded. "I'm sorry. I should have told you. I didn't know how, and I wasn't sure if you'd believe me." I started crying again. Everyone thought I was crazy. My sister, my friends, everyone told me I was imagining things. "You weren't imagining anything," Michael said quietly. "You were right about everything." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Michael cleared his throat. "Sarah, there's something else you should know, something about David that might help you." I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I'm a private investigator. Well, I was. I'm retired now, but I still have contacts and I still know how to find information." He paused. "After I saw what was happening, I did some digging, just basic stuff, public records, that sort of thing." "I hope you don't think I'm overstepping." "What did you find?" I asked, my heart starting to race. "David's been hiding more than just money. He's been running a side business, something that's definitely not legal. He's been embezzling from his own company, funneling money into offshore accounts. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars." I stared at him, unable to process this new information. "What?" "He's been cooking the books for at least 3 years. I have documentation, transfers, fake invoices, the whole thing. If his company ever found out, he'd go to prison." "But why are you telling me this?" Michael leaned forward. "Because you have leverage now. He wanted to leave you with nothing? Well, now you can make sure that doesn't happen. You can negotiate a fair divorce settlement, and if he refuses, you can turn this information over to his company or even to the authorities." I felt like I was in a dream. None of this seemed real. 24 hours ago, I thought I had a normal, if troubled, marriage. Now I knew my husband was a cheater, a liar, and a criminal. "Why would you do this for me?" I asked. "You don't even know me." Michael smiled sadly. "My wife left me 15 years ago. She was having an affair with my best friend. She took everything, the house, the savings, even my dog. I was devastated. I almost didn't survive it. But I did. And I promised myself that if I ever saw someone going through what I went through, I'd help them if I could. Nobody should be destroyed like that. Nobody deserves that kind of betrayal." I reached over and squeezed his hand. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you so much." The next morning, I called a lawyer. A good one, recommended by Michael. I showed her everything, the messages, the recordings, the evidence of David's embezzlement. She listened to it all with a grim expression. "You have a very strong case," she said. "Not only for a fair division of assets but potentially for more. His fraud, his affair, the financial abuse, all of this works in your favor. He's going to have to negotiate, or he's going to face serious consequences." Within a week, David's lawyer contacted mine. David wanted to talk. He wanted to work something out. The confident, cruel man who had thrown me out of my home was suddenly willing to negotiate. We met in my lawyer's office. David looked terrible, pale, anxious, diminished. When he saw me, he couldn't meet my eyes. "Sarah," he started, but my lawyer cut him off. "Let's stick to the business at hand, shall we?" The negotiations took hours, but in the end, I got everything I deserved. Half of the house value, half of the savings he hadn't managed to hide, and a monthly support payment that would keep me comfortable while I figured out my next steps. In exchange, I agreed not to report his embezzlement to his company. It wasn't about protecting him, it was about protecting myself. If he went to prison, I'd never see a penny. This way, he had to work, had to pay, had to face the consequences of his actions every single day. When it was over, David tried to talk to me in the parking lot. Sarah, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I just... Save it, I said coldly. You made your choices. Now live with them. I walked away and didn't look back. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I used my settlement to buy a small house on the other side of town. I quit the bookstore and started taking online courses in graphic design, something I'd always wanted to learn but never had the confidence to try. Michael and I became close friends. He helped me move, helped me set up my new place, helped me navigate this new chapter of my life. He never asked for anything in return. He was just there. A good friend when I needed one most. And just when I thought life was returning to normal, something unexpected happened. 6 months after my divorce was finalized, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sarah? It's Amanda. I nearly hung up. The last person I wanted to talk to was the woman my husband had left me for. What do you want? I asked coldly. I need to apologize, she said, her voice shaking. I need to tell you that you were right about everything. I sat down, shocked. What are you talking about? David and I moved in together after the divorce. And for about 3 months, everything was great. He was attentive and loving and everything he promised he'd be. But then he started doing to me what he did to you. The criticism, the cruelty, the late nights and secret phone calls. I found messages on his phone last week. He's been seeing someone else. Someone younger. He told her the same things he told me about you. That I'm boring. That I'm getting old. That he's planning to leave me with nothing. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt satisfaction. But instead, I just felt sad. I'm so sorry, Amanda continued, crying now. I knew you were married. I knew what we were doing was wrong. But he told me you were separated, that the marriage was already over, that you were just refusing to leave. I believed him. And now I realize he's a monster. He uses people until they're not useful anymore, and then he moves on. And I helped him do that to you. I'm so sorry. What do you want from me, Amanda? I asked, exhausted. I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know that you weren't the problem. It was never you. You could have been perfect, and it wouldn't have mattered. Because he's incapable of seeing anyone's value except his own. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, processing her words, and I realized something important. She was right. It was never about me. It was never about my weight, or my job, or my cooking, or anything else David had criticized me for. It was about him, his emptiness, his need to feel superior, his inability to value the people who loved him. And I realized something else. I was free. Really, truly free. Not just legally, but emotionally. I'd spent so long thinking I needed to be enough for him, that if I just tried harder or was better, he'd love me the way I deserved to be loved. But that was never going to happen. Not because I was lacking, but because he was. I started going to therapy. I joined a support group for people going through divorce. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. I started saying yes to opportunities I would have been too afraid to try before. And slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt my life. Not the life I thought I was supposed to have, but the life I actually wanted. A life where I was valued. A life where I was enough. A life that was mine. I learned that when something feels wrong, you have to trust your instincts. Don't let anyone make you doubt your reality. Don't let anyone convince you that you're crazy or too sensitive or imagining things. If it feels wrong, it probably is. And you deserve to protect yourself. You deserve to seek the truth. You deserve to demand better. This could happen to anyone. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how successful you are, how careful you are. Betrayal can happen to anyone, but you can survive it. You can come out the other side stronger and wiser and more yourself than you've ever been. If something feels wrong, trust your instincts. You might save a life, even your own. So here I am, 1 year later, living in my little house with my new career and my new life. It's not perfect. I still have hard days. I still have moments where I miss the life I thought I had, even though I know it was never real. But I'm okay. More than okay, actually. I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy in a way I never was during my marriage. Michael and I still have dinner every Sunday. We've become the kind of friends who can sit in comfortable silence, who don't need to fill every moment with words. He's teaching me photography, and I'm teaching him how to cook. It's nice. It's simple. It's real. Last month, I went on my first date since the divorce. It didn't lead to anything, and that's okay. I'm learning that I don't need someone else to complete me. I'm learning that I'm enough, all on my own. I heard through mutual acquaintances that David is on his 4th girlfriend since Amanda. Still looking for whatever it is he thinks he's missing. Still leaving destruction in his wake. I don't feel sorry for him. But I don't hate him either. I just feel nothing. He's become irrelevant to my story. Sometimes I think about that night when I stood on my lawn with my belongings scattered around me, feeling like my life was over. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it happened. Because it woke me up. It forced me to see the truth. It gave me the push I needed to reclaim my life. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Tell me your story if you want to share it. Tell me if you've been through something similar. Tell me anything. Because we need to connect. We need to know we're not alone. I read every comment, every single one. And I want you to know that whatever you're going through, you're not alone. There are people out there who understand. There are people who care. There are people like Michael who will help you when you need it most. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of a life that makes you happy. Don't settle for less. Don't let anyone convince you that you don't deserve better. And if you're standing on your lawn right now, watching your life fall apart, please know this. It gets better. It really truly does. The pain you feel right now won't last forever. The darkness will lift. And when it does, you'll find yourself in a place you never expected, a place of strength and peace and possibility. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough to watch until the end. Wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, I'm sending you strength and hope and the reminder that you are enough. You have always been enough. Take care of yourself. Trust yourself. And remember, you deserve better. Always.